let's get our act together and invite our keynote for tonight. Madelein, okay, is a three-time Olympian, and she has an absolute skill and dedicated herself to helping athlete voice. And through that, she has gone on, and I did a little bit of research on you. You've been, not only have you showed your leadership on the beach courts as a pro player, you've also won two times European champion. But probably more interesting for me personally, I guess, maybe not for everyone on the call who's probably getting really fascinated with your playing journey. But you were a member of the Athletes Commission, the Dutch Volleyball Federation, and then went on to be on the FIVB Athletes Commission and become a president of it. And so we're really here. We heard that you were talking at the FIVB Congress or session at the weekend. So really excited to get some insight on what's going on there. But also you have been involved in establishing the International Beach Volleyball Players Association. So an amazing, on top of your playing career, it's a real honor and privilege to have you here. So I'm going to stop sharing at exactly this moment. We'll have a little bit of a transition over, and I know you're going to start sharing on your screen. So
well, thank
Madelein,
you.
The floor is yours.
I'm honored for your introduction. Thank you very much. You did some good LinkedIn research, I guess, and it's an honor to be here, guys, and I'm really happy to share a little bit. Well, first of all, a little bit about my playing career, so you have an idea of like which kind of lessons I learned, what happened, what went on, and all these elements. And then I will actually share a little bit about the volleyball stakeholder field on an international level, because I think it's really interesting to get to know a little bit more about, well, I would say how complicated actually it is, because as players, we're always thinking like, well, it's not that difficult, right? Why don't you get me, I don't know, close, or why don't you get me the court? And from my experience in the Players Athletes Commission, I learned so much more of how complicated actually the whole stakeholder field is. And I think it also gives you a good perspective of where you can focus on or not. So I will just share my screen so you have a little bit of how I used to go to the office. Here you actually see I didn't want to make a full slide deck and just put every picture that I won a medal on it, but I was just like, okay, I will pick like 3 moments where that kind of stand out in my career. I started off, I think, as any beach volleyball player that lives in a very cold country in indoor. So when I was 8, I started playing, actually got introduced by my dad to volleyball. I think that's also a very common way to get in. And I straight away really liked it. And I just kept improving. And once I was 14, I actually joined beach volleyball. So I didn't play till 14 beach volleyball. And I kind of liked it because I was like, oh, here I always play. And here I touched the ball way more times. And that was basically the introduction. I played in several youth championships, won silver on the European Championship under 18, competed in several world championship underage. And then when I was 18, I was like, okay, now I'm at the point where I need to decide, am I going to go full-time beach volleyball? I'm going to full-time indoor. What do I want to do? And my heart was already more towards beach volleyball, but I was like, okay, I want to make a proper decision and really play 1 year indoor volleyball in abroad. So I went to Germany. I played 1 year in the second Bundesliga there. And then I was like, nope, this is not it. I sit like 5 hours in a bus. I lose 3-0. I didn't step 1 point on the court. This is not something I'm going to love. So I decided to go full-time beach volleyball. So when I was 19, I have been playing I started full-time training. And actually, 3 to 4 years later, I was competing in the London Olympics, which was amazing. And is one of my best memories, I think, on the horse car parade and just entering there and all these people clapping because you enter the court. I was so amazed and I was like goosebumps all over. And I played terrible that game because it was like, nope, emotions completely took over. Luckily, we played the world champions, so had nothing to lose, and but still ended up ninth in that Olympics. And then we're kind of getting to the picture on the left, because after the Olympics, and you see it now happening again as well, most of the bit older players that already played it and competed in a couple of Olympics, they take a break. They're like, I'm tired. I traveled so much. I don't want to do. And me and my partner, Sophie van Gestel, at that time, we were like, we're gonna go. Like, we're excited. We just played the Olympics. Let's play, play, play. So we trained really, really hard that season, and we were really in the upcoming line above that. But it really showed off that when you're making hours when others don't, you really can get yourself ahead. And that's really what happened that year after. We actually started off playing all first four tournaments on the highest level in making the finals. And actually in Argentina, we won the Grand Slam and we became #1 on the world ranking. So that really showed that when we were dedicating, and for us, we honestly, we didn't really think about it. For us, it was just like, no, this is what we do. But when I look back now, it's like, that was a good decision and it really bumped us up. But that year, Sophie, at the end of the year, was standing all of the sudden in front of my door at my home. And she said, like, I'm going to stop. I don't like it. I'm too injured. I have too many opportunities. And she had some really, really felt the mental pressure. So in 1 year, I became #1 of the world. At the same year, I lost my partner. And in beach volleyball was quite essential to have a partner. So luckily I had the opportunity to start playing with Marleen van Iersel at that moment, also a really experienced defender. So we took off, and within 1.5 years, we became European champion. So with Sophie van Gestel was kind of an easy partnership, I would say. And it was really like we just trained, we made it work, and it was very balanced naturally. Well, I learned with Madelein van Iersel is that you can still end up on the top of the podium, but you have to put in the work. Like, we were very, very different persons. And in an indoor team where you have more people, you have maybe a better connection with one person and not so good connection with the other person. And then you're like, okay, it's my teammate, but I don't need to hang out with them the whole time. Well, with the beach volleyball, you kind of really, really need to make it work, and you end up hanging out a lot. So we spent a lot of time actually developing a level of trust and relationship and talking a lot about how we are and viewing the world as people. And that really helped us strengthen the team. So we played in the Rio Olympics. I was quite disappointed because in London I got ninth, and in Rio I got ninth again. And I really wanted to at least go to the top 8, and we were aiming for medals because we qualified as 6th of the world ranking that year. But we didn't make it, and as it was so much work, Marleen and I were both like, okay, I think it's time to actually continue in a different partnerships. So then I actually played with Sophie van Gestel 1 year again, but because she returned, but then in the end she didn't have enough motivation to return for 4 more years. So I decided to play with Sanne Keizer. And Sanne Keizer was a very experienced player that had 2 kids actually and wanted to make her return to the court. So I was like, okay, I want to focus, and I want to really focus and be able to focus on my own improvement. I actually wanted to change sides on the court, and with her I could do it. So I picked her. And actually the first year we won the European Championship. So we really took off well. We were consistently in the top 10 of the world. However, the Tokyo Olympics was 1 year like that. COVID really took us to another year, was a lot, I have to say. We were as a team never very consistent. We struggled a little bit with that. And that adding that 1 year was, didn't gave us much more improvement. So we became last, actually. So in the 3 Olympics, I was like, okay, this is my moment. Now I'm going to win that medal. And I knew with Sanne it was a bit more of a long shot than with Marleen, but I was like, I'm confident that we can do it. But we actually lost all 3 pool games. But we were the only team to actually win one set from the Olympic champions, and we almost actually beat them in that game. So I still believe I did everything in my power that I could do in that last Olympics, but still I had to process that I actually never really got to that dream of having a medal. I only now, looking back, I'm really proud. I realized more and better than during my players career how special it is that I played at 3 Olympics and I was consistently top 10 in the last almost 10 years of my career. But yeah, I have to say that I don't think as a player I did enough in recognizing how special it was on the achievements I made. So I want to give that to all the players attending here, like really be proud of what you achieve and don't think everything is just normal because you're surrounded by good players. No, it's really cool that you dedicate so much time to volleyball. So please be proud and happy with that, because I think I did that not enough during my career. But now, yeah, as Gwyn said, I did a lot during my career on the volleyball court. But at one moment, I got also very intrigued and honestly a bit, well, annoyed by the FIVB, because they, in my opinion, they were basically changing my job with creating a completely new system, and they did not inform me. So all of a sudden, my tournament structure, my prize money went down, everything changed in my job. And I was like, how can it be that I actually need to read it on a website? And in that time, Carrie Walsh actually sent a letter to FIVB, well, 3-time Olympic gold medalist, and she told us she didn't get a response. So I was like, well, if a 3-time gold medalist is not getting response, I for sure won't get one. So I was like, okay, then we need to unite. Then we really need to unite and create a power within us. So I sent an email to 10 volleyball players that I knew that might be interested. I got one answer back, and that answer was from Anouk Vergé-Depré. And we held a meeting because we were really like, no, we should be part of these conversations. It cannot be that all these decisions are made without us. So we held this meeting, and all the players, we gave them options. We do nothing, we go complete strike, or we build a union. And they voted for building a union. And then basically the adventure began from building a union, because me and Anouk never did that. Luckily, we had help from a lawyer, and we built the IBVPA. I have to say it went with a lot of ups and downs. We started off with really wanting to do very democratic decisions. We did surveys on everything, and that worked perfectly when you have like an 80-20 division. But at the time, we grew and grew more. We got to some decisions that were actually more around the 50-50 range. And me and Anouk started understanding the stakeholder field way, way more better. And we started understanding that sometimes the vision we had as players was just not realistic. And that's really one lesson I learned there, is that you really need to understand the bigger picture before you can have sometimes a good, well argumented conversation when you really want to be heard, because there are compromises to make. So I want to open this one, because I think this is a really nice picture of basically the stakeholders involved in the current volleyball, if you would look at volleyball, and this is specifically for the VNL. Because one of the things we are actually as Athletes Commission currently having discussions on is revenue sharing for the VNL. In many sports, there's actually already revenue sharing models. With the volleyball, it's actually currently only prize money. And we want to create a system where part of the revenue is shared by prize money, but also as players, you can basically earn more if you invest more in it. So it's really getting like, okay, you invest a lot of time in doing social media presence, helping out ticket sale, well, then you actually also have a bigger part of the revenue. So basically you get KPIs, key performance indicators to reach, and then you can actually get more money. Too complicated, I think, to dive into it, but this is one of the stakeholder kind of overviews that we discussed with the FIVB. And as athletes, we're in the middle, and that's really also within the FIVB. They really put athletes at the center. And that's actually when I transitioned from founding the union to the FIVB Athletes Commission, I really noticed how much they actually put it at the center. But so at one moment, to close a bit of the IBVPA story, I was in the union, I've been president. We were having conversations with the FIVB. And at one moment, I actually joined the Athletes Commission, and Anouk stayed with the union. So we said we have somebody inside the FIVB and somebody outside the FIVB. So we basically split responsibilities because to avoid a double heading kind of position where I was for a while in. So if you look at athletes, we're really concerned at sports performance, right? We want to win those medals. We want to really get to that part. But we're also involved in promotional activities. That's like part of the kind of creating attractive elements for the game. Well, you basically sell your image. You have image rights that you're selling. So this is something also that through players regulations, we're playing, but they can use image rights. Well, there are some regulations that you can maybe not use an image for one person, but you can use for 3 persons, all these kind of elements. So otherwise they need to pay more. Then you have basically good sportsmanship, compliance with doping regulations. It's also very important. And don't forget that even if you're like not even on the top level, as soon as you're an athlete, you actually need to be compliant with doping regulations. Yes, we don't get doping testing very often in lower competitions, but in the end, you apply with the doping regulations as well. And there's a certain element of fair play. So that's basically the responsibilities as athletes. But there are way more stakeholders that are around volleyball than only the athletes. So first of all, your NF that we also have, of course, here. So you have the team development and preparation. That's kind of a responsibility for an NF if they want to compete in the VNL or in basically any tournament. The training infrastructure, supporting the national team or all teams with the training infrastructure. Then you have transportations and meals up until the city where you play. That's still the responsibility of a national federation. And the interesting part with the VNL in particularly is that the prize money is also paid to the national federation. That's also some element that we're actually working on with the Athletes Commission to have it directly paid to the athletes. Because now we cannot control how much money is actually paid to the athletes. Some federations give 100%, some give 80%, some give nothing. And that's not where the prize money is meant for. It's also really meant to support the athletes in their living. So that's basically for an NF, all the things that your NF needs to think about. And they're quite some responsibility because it's not that easy to put on the right training structure. And as athletes, we're like, of course you have a place to train. Of course I have all these elements. Well, it's not something that's that easily arranged. Then another, if you go to the right side, there's the host. That's the city basically organizing. And this comes with a lot of money that needs to be invested actually to really make a good tournament like you see when you watch the VNL. First of all, they actually need to pay to be able to host. So they're paying the FIVB or Volley World a hosting fee. Then there is local promotion. They arrange a venue, they arrange a training, they arrange basically all the buses from the airport, from the hotel to the accommodation. Well, they arrange the hotel, the meals, and everything for promotion, the local sales, tickets, sponsorship, activation. So as you can see, some hosts for a World Championship, they're planning for 2 years to actually host just just an event. This is, of course, a very big level event. Well, in smaller events, there's still a lot of different elements that need to be arranged. Then we come to the left side, and that's the FIVB and Volley World. I don't know who knows about volleyball, if everybody knows, but what FIVB, the International Volleyball Federation, basically did, they built another company that's just responsible for the commercial kind of elements of volleyball. So they are really focusing on the global promotion, the sales, like hosting, media, global sponsorship, ticketing support, the operational management, and media production and distribution. So this is also Volley World TV, for instance. That's something that they do. All the social media that you see from Volleyball World, all that stuff, they are really there to commercialize basically volleyball on the highest level. And then you still have the FIVB. And the FIVB is basically, their commitment is to have a good governance in volleyball. So they are obliged to put proper governance in volleyball, make it available to everybody. So it's way more kind of like, yeah, they're a non-profit. So they are not supposed to aim for the profit. Volleyball World is fully profit. They want to realize profit. Then FIVB makes all the rules about volleyball. So I'm also in commission. I'm in, well, actually last Congress, where I was this weekend, we had to vote about some rules in volleyball. Sometimes it's really little rules, but for instance, this time we voted, and this is probably also going to apply to you guys, that normally you have all these rotations in volleyball. Well, as a serving team, you still don't need to do this rotation anymore. So if you are, even if you're in the backcourt, but in the backcourt in the middle, and you're always as an outside hitter, you go to the left, you can already stand there and the referee won't whistle. As a receiving team, you still need to do the rotation. So that running around from the players, that when the person serves, is not needed anymore. So for instance, that's something that the FIVB comes up with. They need to ask all the commissions, and then there is a voting by all national federations to actually change a rule like that. Then you have players' regulations, medical, doping, technical, referees, athletes' prize money, awards and recognitions, volleyball department programs, sports law, anything related to the legal activities. So as you can see, there's a really long list they are responsible for. And that's why I wanted to show this, because as athletes, we're sometimes so focused on everything that's here. And when I'm sitting there as an athlete representative, of course, I'm going and trying and fight for everything that the athlete should do. But I cannot say that the FIVB needs to spend all their money on the athlete's prize money, because they have all these other obligations as well. Because we have to comply with doping regulations, and they have to do the medical and doping testing. So they need to pay that as well. So there are many elements that are in play. And as athletes, we can say like, well, we want better accommodation and we want to fly business class. Well, if my NF needs to pay my ticket, well, then my NF needs to have a lot of money to pay the ticket to fly everybody business class. Well, the accommodation, the host needs to pay that, but they also need to pay the hosting fee and the venue and the training. So there are many elements that are actually completely in play. So that's why what I really learned is that at one moment during the union I was sharing, we had 50-50 kind of answers from the players. But me and Anouk knew that there was actually, well, there was gonna be one answer and not the answer that maybe the players completely liked, because of the whole ecosystem, and players don't always understand that. And that's why it's so important when you are in a position where you represent players, that you have the conversation with your national federation, with wherever you are, to really discuss, even at your club level, discuss what the club has more in responsibilities. Try to understand where they involve it, because a lot of the clubs also have a relationship with the cities, well, maybe the training gym where you're training in, all these elements. they also have responsibilities. And as athletes, we can, of course, we need to voice us and we need to speak up, but we also need to understand that sometimes it will be no for a very good reason, and that it's also okay. So you really need to find a balance and maybe another creative way to still get the same benefit. I'm going to stop sharing because I'm aware I also talked for a long time and I know you have a really busy schedule. So I want to leave it for now with that and maybe leave some room for some questions if there are any questions.
Hey, thank you so much for that, Madelein. It was very insightful, I'd say. Going back to your playing career and kind of each of the Olympics that you went to, how did you deal with I don't know if it was disappointment, or how did you deal with those emotions each time? Because I know that those are kind of the pinnacle of your career. To have something like that happen can be quite drastic and dramatic.
No, I definitely, well, first of all, it's allowing the emotions, allowing to be sad is like the first thing. Sometimes we're like, oh, no, I'm not sad or stuff like that, but you cannot control those emotions. But also having faith that I could do better next time, and that if I kept working really hard, if I put in the hours, that it would get better next time. And not only looking at the Olympics as my main tournament, because if I look back on my whole career, and I showed now three pictures, but there's so many special moments and there's so many nice interactions and there's so many places I traveled to in the world and so many nice people I met. So it's really a complete package. And to be honest, the way I learned to know myself and how I am as a person is also very, very valuable. So it's looking at the positive things, but allowing the negative emotions as well. But I think my main point was like not only look at the Olympics as the main goal, it's the journey along the way.
Yeah, no, 100%. Thank you.
Great question, Jermaine. Brilliant. Go for it. Go on. We've got some.
Still back on your career, I guess, as an Olympian, and all that you've done is quite inspiring. And listen to all of this, because I've always thought, Olympians, they're so out of reach. You never get to speak to them. But it's so great listening to you now. For anyone who's listening, and I'm sure there are a lot of young people who'd be very interested in pursuing something similar, or I guess trying to get into the Olympics. What was the process like? How did you get into it? I appreciate it's a bit different in different countries, but I think there might be similarities here and there.
Well, first of all, I trained a lot of hours. I did a lot of boring cardio. I did a lot of boring weightlifting, and I did a lot of fun beach volleyball. But overall, the qualification process for beach volleyball, you have basically two pathways. You can qualify on world ranking, and you have continental tournaments. So the first Olympics, for instance, with Sophie van Gestel, I couldn't qualify because we teamed up too late through the world ranking, so I was too low on that. But then we won the Continental Cup, it's called. So from Europe, we won that tournament and we earned the spot. So actually for London, I was 2 weeks before London, I kind of qualified really, really late. So it was a last minute or last chance we took.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Madelein, I just want to say a massive thank you. I've spent a long time in athlete representation, and I've just finally been able to get onto the executive for my sport, which is world rowing. But the journey that I took as an athlete through that process was I went through that same realization that we had a cause to fight, we needed our rights. The sport was professionalizing, we were becoming institutionalized. How did we get our voice there? And one of the critical ones was to make sure, and I think you were very clear and you've done it in a very insightful way, is understand who you're trying to persuade and try and explain what you're trying to say in their language and from their viewpoint, and they're much more likely to make a change if that's the case. I have a final question before we pass on and move to the next session. Is so what now? So you've
What now?
so what now? What is it? Where are you making your career? What's your next steps? Because I know you're
Um,
finishing with the FIVB. Is that right? You finished your
yes, I
time.
finished my term there. I'm not decisive yet what I will do as voluntary work. I will be. I got asked for several positions, so I have to look a bit because I have a I could so say a serial volunteer. I'm happy always to do a lot of different things, but I also realized I have to prioritize because otherwise you cannot deliver good quality. So for now, I don't know. Yeah, I have to look in what I will for sure do something voluntary again, and it will be related to volleyball because for me, the sport we play, it's like, come on, guys, it's like the ultimate team spirit. We're with the most people on the smallest court, and it's such a full athletic sport that you have to be. So I think it's a sport very close to my heart. And furthermore, yeah, I started working at Ernst & Young, so EY, focusing there on leadership and culture transformations. And one thing I do have to share, I always been very happy when I stopped playing that I did study next to my career. I got a bachelor degree in pharmacy and I got an MBA. And I know many players and many athletes that stopped studying because they thought, oh, I will be fine afterwards. And then it really tough afterwards. And I know some players that also wanted to work at one of the big consulting companies, and they are not hired because they don't have a master's degree. So it is very handy when you're an athlete and when you have a background, but really please study because it will bring you a lot more benefits when you decide to kind of change it. So in that way, yeah, I do want everybody to know that some people look at me and were like, "Oh, you transferred so easy," and I was like, "Well, I did a lot of hard work to be able to transfer so easy while I was playing." So in that
What
way,
a
it helps.
brilliant! What a wonderful message! And we just had in the chat, we had a lovely comment. Let me see. Hello, really great for you to share your journey with us. I was wondering how you developed a connection with your partner to build chemistry on and off the court. Oh, we've got another question in there. How do you build chemistry? And then the question is, how are you going to take that into EY?
Yeah. Well, as I shared a little bit, with every partner it was different. With Sophie, I've realized that we have quite similar values, the way we live life. We're both into training hard. That's the way you get it. Marleen was very different. I sometimes compare it like she spoke German, I spoke Dutch. It's very similar language, but sometimes you just don't understand each other. And then we spent actually a lot of time off the court. So we had dinners together. We had elements, social. We went building a connection and having conversations about how do you view the world? How do I view the world? And because in the beginning, well, I will be honest, I was very annoyed because for me, she seems like she didn't want to train. But there was something behind it, and it was okay in a way that she did it differently. And with Sanna, I realized actually that because we were both really experienced, we both had a backpack of experience, and sometimes that's good, and sometimes it's bad, because sometimes you assume what you did in the past is also valid for the next person. And actually, you need to sometimes drop some of those luggage, the bad ones and the good ones you take. And that's really, I also use that a lot when I work with clients and around teaming, that I always say, like, okay, but what's in your backpack? Look at the good stuff you want to take, and let's leave the things that you took from your last team, leave it behind, and realize that this is a new team, new context, new people, and that baggage, what you take with you, is better left behind.
Fantastic, Madelein. Sort out your backpack. That's the big message. Absolutely. Well, we wish you all the luck in your career as it goes forward. And I know many sportsmen and women that have worked in EY, and it's been a great kickoff for the next part of their career. So have a really good time. You're always welcome back here. Anytime you're in London, we'd love to see you. London, should I say the UK? So yeah, you're really welcome. And thank you. I know you've got to drop off, so it's an absolute privilege. Thank you.
But have a fun session, guys. Nice. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Thank
care.
you.